I honestly think the only thing keeping Mr. After alive is work. The moment he retires, he just ceases to exist.
Oh, fine fix.
I think he's killed by nature.
All right, life insurance. Hey, life insurance. We've talked about other insurance, right? Auto insurance, etc., right? You could probably guess that this is insurance for your life. Yes, right? And like any insurance, there's a beneficiary, right? Especially for life insurance. Anybody know what a beneficiary is?
Person who receives the benefits.
Beneficiary. Okay. They are people who get money when you die. People who get money when you die. Right. You might think, well, these are lucky people. Well, not so fast. Not so fast because you're not dead yet. So we have to wait yet until you die. Well, in all seriousness, it's a good idea, especially, if you're married, right, or you have children, especially if it's a two-income household, right? Let's say you have all sorts of bills, debts, mortgages, everything, kids, college stuff going on, and one of the spouses passes away, right? Dies in a horrible, I don't know, plumbing or golf accident or something, right? It might be one income just not really enough to keep all that going, right? So you might want to have a life insurance policy, right? Like Ms. Effer and I have like $250,000 on each one, right? And it breaks in her car. Might not be the best shape they could be, but we'll see. Anyway, so those are beneficiaries. There's two basic types of life insurance, okay? First type would be what's called a term life policy. Okay? Term life is coverage for a set term, not like for the rest of your life, okay? Coverage for a set term, right? Could be 5, 10, 20 years, something like that. 5, 10, 20 years, etc. All right. And it will generally, the premiums will be a little bit less than if it's a policy that's just for the rest of your existence, right? No matter how old you are. And well, why would you decide on a policy like this that say it's like 20 years and not your whole life? Well, the premiums would be a little lower, right? But what yet?
Well, if it's for their whole life, then you have to pay for it for the whole time instead of.
Well, yeah, for the most part, except when we get to the part where there's a cash value part of the policy that can be used in other things, right? But let's say, your mortgage and everything will be paid for in 20 years. A lot of these expenses will go away, right? Like, you kind of assume you retire, some of the stuff will be over and done, or close to it, right? Hopefully. You might not need life insurance by the time you get to that point. One income will support, and then you don't have to make premiums anymore. Okay? But a term life policy will not come with any cash balance, right? So I would say if your debts are paid within 20 years or something like that, then a term life is good for you, or 5 years or what have you. Now, like if you wanted to get a policy after that, you'd have to reapply for it. All right, let's say you purchased a 10-year term life policy, and it's about to expire. You say, I think I want to go just refinance the house or whatever, another 10 years. The trick is with that, though, each time you apply for a life insurance policy, there's like a medical questionnaire, right? And your age is a factor. Wouldn't you agree? The older you are, the higher your premium would be, wouldn't it? Because you're closer to death, aren't you?
If you're like 100, do they like a lot?
No, dead. Dead would be the limit.
Well, I mean, like my grandma, you get life insurance.
It'd be pretty expensive for grandma, I would say. But I think they can, up to 100, right? But there's also health. It's not just age, it's health, right? And a lot of companies will compel you that if you want this policy, you have to get go to the doctor, have these tests and those done, right? And what's your cholesterol, all much do you drink in the morning or whatever. Yeah,
As long as this like whole process came to go through, like for example, say like you apply for life insurance and then on the way home you have a car accident.
yeah, well, that's a shame. It's one of those things in life. It's a shame.
No, we wouldn't act like it.
Why not?
No, what I'm saying is like how long would it usually take for like
A few months probably, if it's all that, a couple months.
He's trying to figure out like a Ricochet break.
Yeah, sure,
well,
yeah.
no, like say
So
someone,
you don't just, apply for policy?
I don't know, say like someone's like 50 or whatever, gets like cancer, so you can live like 2 months or whatever.
Again, if your policy's not in place when you die, then there is no coverage.
They're not gonna give you like that.
Yeah, right, so you're in the hospital getting all these tests done, and the whole cancer thing will be part of the information.
No, that's classified information. They don't know that.
No, you give up some of that classified information in order to purchase a policy. I mean, you don't have to buy the policy, right? So you don't have to give them that information, but if you want to buy the policy, they need the information, right? So they need medical records. So, hands on those. Yeah, so hand up somewhere. And that, no, okay. So the other main type, other than term life, which is temporary, would be whole life and universal, which are kind of the same. For our purposes, they will be. Whole life and universal life. All right. So these are permanent coverage, lifetime. All right. And so you don't have to worry about it, the term expiring and having to reapply when you're 20 years older than having to pay a new premium based on being 20 years older, right? And, considerably more sickly, the odds would be, right?
So what happens to all the money you paid in? It's just like you pay it in for 20 years and then like it doesn't get paid out and you just lose it.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, of course.
Right. It's all insurance works. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, really. Okay. That's not a bad question because, like,
It's like
is
predicting
it
your death.
a complete total loss to you? Okay. So answer this question: is it a complete and total loss if you never use the life, if you never collect on your life insurance? First of all, that means you're still alive. So gain there, right?
Yeah, it's a game.
You got that.
That's a lot of money to
So
just
just the very basic, the first checkbox, this is good, I'm still alive, okay, it's not a total loss, okay? The second one is, why are you actually purchasing a life insurance policy? Think about that for a minute, why? Or any insurance policy. Whether you use it or not, why do you have it? You, of course, yeah, that's the definition of it, but why did you purchase it? Yeah. Well, who cares about them? Why did you purchase it?
Well, that's survival, isn't that why? You're dead, who cares? That's the only reason, like,
Right, you're gonna be gone. Really, but why did you purchase it? So you're alive and you have this policy that's never being used, but you have the policy, and your car is insured, but you've never crashed your car. Why do you have it? Really?
in case. Just in case.
Full coverage, right? What about the just in case though? What are you getting at? What about this just in case caused you to purchase it? Well, I'm still hung up on, is it a total loss to you? Not having collected on any of these claims. Or having a claim collected. Trying. How do you feel? Secure, right? Peace of mind, isn't it? It's close to the just in case, but I was a little bit more, like, so what just in case, right? You're buying, so it's not a total loss. You are paying for peace of mind while the policy is in effect, right? Make sense? Yeah, and that's the peace of mind, isn't that a commodity? Would you agree? They can be purchased and sold?
Fortunately.
Yeah, no, not unfortunately. Fortunately, yes. Anything that can be bought and sold, yes. Thank.
minus.
Yeah, all right, anyway, hair, you said? Said hair?
Air,
Hair,
like.
Air.
Like breathe.
not hair, air.
If I already sell hair.
So hair, that would be an error.
Yeah, wait.
Okay, but anyway, permanent coverage, right? So you don't have to worry about renewing a policy at higher premiums and all that. Now, it also carries an investment component. This is an important distinction. So that's why it's in with this like retirement chapter, right? Carries an investment component. All right? And or a cash value component. Put that there. Right, so there's the insurance, oh, I'm just drawing a blank on the word. The money you get when you die, that money, it just left my head for some reason. Right, and then there's this cash value / investment side of it, right? Then that cash will be yours, even if you cancel the policy, okay? And that cash can be withdrawn, okay? That can be withdrawn or used to make your premium payments if you can't or don't want to. Or used to make premium payments. Like suppose you, God, I'm a little tired of these monthly payments right now. I think I'd rather buy a new car. And instead of paying for this whole life insurance, I'd rather take that money and put it towards a car payment. Well, depending on you could do that, and they would just take your premiums out of your cash value component of it until that's gone, and then it'll lapse. Okay, but you have that available with a whole universal life. It's a little bit different. Okay. So that's the idea. I think there might have been some other terms here. What else they got? There's group term, level term. I'm not going to get into too much of the details. That's it. It's basically, just think term and whole for the most part. Not worry about variable life. We're going to get into mortality tables too. That's always fun. There's people out there. I think we talked about them before. Actuaries. Oh, and by the way, that wasn't last year, the year before. Every now and then I get a student from, say, like Binghamton University or Elmira. The guy they sent me the last time is actually a little bit like me. Well, not quite as tall, but he was teaching is going to be his second career, and he was in finance before that, right? So he's going into math teaching. So we're kind of kindred there, right?
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, well. It's like it does. Okay? It was kind of cool, right? So we had a lot. It turns out I was in finance and banking, and his experience in finance was in the actuarial science, right? Where these are people that sit and calculate the probability of people dying or not dying by their next birthday, stuff like that. Or the probability of a guy that's Wyatt's age getting into a car accident because he drives like an a-hole at that age, right? And that's the numbers they get put together, okay? And so we're going to be talking about, we don't teach probabilities in math so much anymore in New York State, I guess, right? You guys have done some probability stuff, right?
Yeah, what's your old buddy do now?
Mm-hmm.
What's your old buddy do now?
He is, last thing, I got a phone call from Principal Vestal wanting a reference for him, so I think he's working with Vestal. And, which was where I did my student teaching, so it's all, anyway.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, sort of. Okay, so let's take a look at example one. This one should start out fairly simple. Paul, read example one, would you please?
Maybe.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, did you do anything? All right.
All right,
Yeah, I'll gun to your head. Jack is 40 years old. In 10 years, his house will be paid off. His daughter will have completed college. He wants to take out a 10-year level term insurance policy with a face value of $750.
Face value, that's right, sure, blank, face value, that's like the money you'll get when you die, or you won't get it. Oh, you're really good, but beneficial. So face value.
The monthly premium is $76. What will be Jack's total cost over the 10-year period?
Well, that's pretty simple. What do you say? So it's 10 years, 12 months a year. What was the premium? 76. So he'll be kicking in how much? 9,120. All right. What's the face value of that policy? 750,000. It's costing him less than 10,000 to have that available, right? Peace of mind? Yeah, reasonable seems to me.
Peace of mind is worth $76 for.
Sure,
That's pretty good.
why not, right?
$76 more than that.
Yeah. Oh, you know what they don't address in here? The law of adverse selection. Remind me to talk about that. And why, like, universal health care just won't work because it kind of violates physics.
Violates physics.
Yeah, right, yeah, the law of adverse selection.
That's why I hate Canada.
Yeah. All right.
Canada for.
Don't be too harsh on the Canadians. Come on, we talked about this. Canadian. Sorry. Oh. Okay, we're gonna skip, I think, example 2. Yeah, we're gonna skip example 2. Let's go to example 3. Casper, walk us through example 3, please.
All right. Mario has a universal life insurance policy with a face value of $250,000.
Face value, that's the payout when he kicks. Go ahead.
The current cash value of the policy is $8,260. Premium is $97 per month. How many months can the cash value be used to pay the premium?
So it's 8260 cash value, right? That's just cash sitting there, okay? That, you know, part of the premium goes into building up this little cash account for you. They can get invested, right? And what's the premium? How much? What is it? 97. So how do we figure out, like, if he wants to stop making his premium, how many months will the cash value carry him? If they'll just take 97 out of the cash value. So you know what to do, right? What do you do? Divided by 97 equals approximately 85 months. That's quite a while, would you say? Yeah. About 7 years or so. Yeah. So again, maybe put that 97 towards car payment, right? Something like that. Okay, so now let's talk about this probability stuff, these mortality tables, and it's somewhere, I put it in here. They have one in example 4, but let me just talk about what it is. Mortality table. Mortality means death, right? These are what actuarial science people deal with all the time. So it calculates death probabilities for certain types and ages of people, all right? It calculates death probabilities for certain ages and types of people. For certain ages and types of people. What do you mean by types? Male, female, first of all, right? Who's more likely to die? Who has a lower average life expectancy? Men, right? Why? Because hard work. No, generally, generally, on average, right, everything's in Venn diagrams, all right, so there's overlap. But overall, on average, men are going to do more physical, laborious work. I mean, you agree with that, right? Yeah. Like, how many times, you know, somebody something heavy lifted, you know, like a box, you put it up there for me, right? That's wear and tear on my back in the cold, right? Fine. You got other things you do great. Better than us, way better than us. We just can lift things.
I think you're digging yourself deeper into the hole.
That's okay. That's not long enough. I've been in so many holes. But again, it's Venn diagrams, right? I'm sure there's chicks out there that can bench more than me, no doubt, okay? But you gotta, like, you guys communicate so much more effectively than me. You really do, you really do. See, it's like you can't even pay someone a compliment these days. What's more important than communicating effectively? Lifting boxes? I don't think so. Okay.
Then communication grunts.
So the numbers you see in the table by example 4, I guess I'll get recorded too. The numbers you see in the table are the probability of death before the next birthday. Probability of death before next birthday. And not just male, female, by the way, but different occupations, right? Like this particular occupation I'm in, not a high mortality rate, right? But a construction worker, a little bit higher, right? Race car driver, a little higher.
Do they do anything about skin color?
Bullfighters, probably pretty high. Probably, yeah. I mean, there's demographics that cover everything. You know, there's different diseases that affect different races differently, right? So they actually sit down with the data, and they can calculate the probability given all this stuff.
Like, you know how nowadays people will identify as like the other gender? Now, I wonder what the insurance company would think of that.
They use the actual like biological gender, male, female, right? And just all probability. It's like whatever you identify it, right? You're still going to have the same kind of like DNA that tells your brain to put the gas pedal on the floor, okay? Whether you're wearing a dress or not, you're going to be more likely to drive fast, I would think. If you're wired like that, I would think. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just confused, that's all.
I know. Now, I don't know how much probability you've had, but 100% probability, you understand we represent with 1, right? 1 is 100% probability. Basically, you're taking the percent and making it the number between 0 and 1, right?
Right.
So 0.5 would be 50%, right? So like if there's if the probability of dying by your next birthday is 0.2, what's the probability of living? 0.8. 1 minus that, right? 1 minus the 0.2, which is 0.8, okay? So if the probability of death is given in the table, then the probability of living past that birthday would be 1 minus probability of death. Okay, we use capital P parentheses and then whatever we're talking about the probability of. All right. And then you can sum probabilities. We'll have to take a look at an example, I think. Do you know how to do probability of conjunctions and disjunctions? You know what a conjunction is? Like the word and, disjunctions of the word or. I guess that means conjunction, disjunction, and, or. But in statistics, and means two things happening, certainly happening at the same time, right? And you want the probability of two things definitely happening. Not one or the other, but both of them happening, you multiply the probabilities.
Okay, so
There's
it's
probability of one thing or the other thing, the probability of it in whole is
equal.
adding the probability.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, I've just never heard it phrased like that.
Yeah, well, that's because it doesn't really get taught anymore, right? I think you have an intuitive sense of it, and it feels right. I don't know if we teach it. Probably Mrs. Theories.
I definitely went to intelligence school, I've seen it around over there.
Because it used to be something we teach like back in algebra. Or even before you get a little intro to it in 7th and 8th grade. They don't do it so much now. But it seems like you got an intuitive sense of it. Anyway, let's take a look at example 4. Casper, read that, will you? Did you just read? Oh, yeah. I meant this kid, Cameron.
4?
4. Don't take that ball.
Insurance agent. Zach, a 45-year-old man, inquires about a life insurance policy. How can Joe assess the risk his company is taking on a life insurance policy?
All right, so you guys see the table? You finish reading that?
Yeah. Zach.
So let's assess the risk the company's taking. You see the probable mortality table. So you see the age, and this is just for, it's going to be a different table for females, right? Because they generally live longer on average, so different probabilities. So probability of dying if you're 41 at age 42, at your 42nd birthday is what, 0.002629 or 0.2629%, right? And the probability, the life expectancy, that's just like his life expectancy to be what? How many more years he should live, given his demographics.
32-ish, almost
30. Well, I was at 41, so 36, 30 or so, right? Okay. So he's male, 45. Okay. What is his probability of death? 0.00372, isn't it? 3732.
Doesn't apply to us.
It doesn't, no. Okay. And what is that as a percent, guys? 0.37%, right? Approximately. Okay. 3732%. Okay. So I know, like, when it's in a percent, it looks like a number that we're used to having converted out of percent.
Yeah.
So don't get caught into that, right? And that's a pretty low probability, right? Really? Yeah. It's not like it's 20%. It's 20%. Oh, what? Oh, God.
Set your house on the blind.
They give me a lot more to think about if it was 20%. I'm looking at this table, you know, but that's not too bad. Okay. So it's less than 1% chance that he'll die before his 46th. Careful. So he's 45, right? And it's less than 1% chance that he'll die before his 46th birthday. So less than, much less than 1% chance of death before 46. Wow. Death before age 46. Okay? So that's a simple one. And we can have to kind of have our brains wrapped around that so we can think about the cost structure, right? The profit structure for the life insurance company. Let's try the check here. So I'm interested, just see if we can apply this probability here. I don't know why I do a line, I never do that. So read that check. See if we can think about what to do. Mortality rate, certain female of an elderly age of 0.043. That's quite a bit higher than this guy, right? It says she's elderly.
Is that already in a percent?
No.
Okay.
They would have had the percent symbol, right? Okay, this is between 0 and 1. And how many people are they insuring? All right, and they want to know what? How many of these blue hairs are going to die before their next birthday? That's what they want to know. We can get, and it's pretty darn accurate, by the way. They know exactly. They don't know whole probably. Maybe they do. But these numbers are pretty much on the money.
Do you think that they take bets on, like, they just choose a handful?
That wouldn't be right. But I'm sure there's a bracket going around somewhere.
Oh, it's happening.
March Madness bracket, right? Some sick, twisted actuarial nerd types.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's even worse than what I was thinking of.
So the probability of death there was 0.043. That's 4% probability of death, man. What are you gonna do? How many people are going to die out of this group of 7,000?
Just over 3.
301. 0.043 times 7,000. You apply that probability to that number of people, and it's going to be 301 people dead.
Nice.
And these are accurate too. I mean, these numbers are pretty darn accurate. So think about this now. Let's say they know they have 7,000 policies out there right now. Can you now start thinking about how you price these policies maybe? If you know that 300 of that 7,000, right, are not going to see it through the next birthday and have no more premiums to pay in, and you got to pay out the face value to them, right? So then now you can start thinking about, okay, this demographic of people, women this age, whatever, race, creed, color, whatever, social status or occupation, whatever, we're going to have to charge them a certain premium, right? Because we know we're going to have to pay out to nearly exactly this many people out of that group. And this is almost a certainty, that number, right? You understand that, right? It's not like it's going to come to 250 or, 375. It's going to be really close, maybe 300 or 302, So you think about how, if you're the insurance company, how you're going to pay out. And each one of those is probably covered for 250,000, $500,000, million maybe, right? And that's money you as an insurance company is going to be out. And so how do you offset that? With the premiums, right? Right? It's an older crowd, more likely to die. The premium's going to be high. They have to be. Otherwise, there's no assurance of that, right? You can't insure someone for not enough money. Like, if you don't make them pay a certain premium, you can't insure that group. And some people are like, oh, it's just greedy insurance companies. No, it's just bad. That's it. It's probabilities. Okay? Now, we can start thinking about revenue to the insurance company. Young Matthew and Jackson. Sorry. Yes, you are. Example 5, Matthew. Would you read that, please? All right.
A real estate insurance company sells a 5-year term insurance policy with face value of $150,000 for a 41-year-old man for an annual premium of $648. What is the profit the company receives from selling this policy with each age at death?
Okay, what does profit equal? You remember? Everybody remember what profit is?
Isn't it like gross minus net or something like that?
Revenues minus expense, right? If you're an insurance company, what are your revenues?
Premiums.
The premiums, right? And so what are the revenues for this company from each person? Or from this person? So $648 per month.
No, that's it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, per year. Thank you. Now, per year. When he dies, what is their expense? What's that number? 150,000 one time. Okay, so we got the revenues coming in, 648 per year. And when he dies, 150,000, right? And so the good probability, I think the probabilities come in example 6, okay? But they want to know what's the problem for each age at death. Let me see. Real man, okay. What are they doing here? Oh, I know. So let's find the probability that he dies in the first year. Okay. So let's say probability number 1, right? How many premium payments has he made? Okay. So P equals R minus E. Still doing P equals R minus E. Okay. So one premium payment is going to be 648 times 1, right? We agree that's the revenue they got from him before he died. Quite a risk, would you say? Minus what? $150,000. So that profit is negative 149,352. Negative 149,352. Okay, quite a risk, yeah. So your company, your revenues are $648. Your expenses are $150,000. If this guy croaks after the first year, with me? Okay. So let's do the probability. The second year of death. So that's 648 times what? Minus 150,000. Again. What am I doing? I don't even know where to put a comma. 150,000 equals, and we can work this out. It's going to be negative 148,704. 148,704. Okay. So we got that extra premium. And we can keep doing this, right? You get the idea? Okay, so probability number 3 would be 648 times 3 minus 150,000. And that's negative 148,056, I believe. It's getting a little better for the insurance company, right? They'd like them to live a little longer, wouldn't they? If this is the only guy in the insurance pool, right? But what's going to offset this, by the way? All the other thousands in this with this same policy not dying. Okay? And hats off to them for not dying. Say, good job.
Congrats.
Yes, you made it. Isn't that really what happy birthday means? Someone wishes you a happy birthday. They don't just say, congratulations, you're not dead. Basically all that is. Okay. So after 4 premiums, 648 times 4 minus 150,000. That should give us 147,408 negative. We'll keep going. The probability after 5 is going to be the 648 times 5. This is going, I know it's obnoxious, but I'm trying to prove a point. So negative, what am I leaving off on? 146,700 negative 146,700. Okay. How long was this premium? Okay. Now he dies in year 6. What is it? This is 60. Thank you. Now let's say he dies in year 6. This is year 6.
Before you have to repay the premium for that year.
I'll just say this is year 6.
He's done.
How long was the policy for? It was term life, right? So did he pay a policy for year 6? He only paid a policy for what? Year 5. So let's say that he lives all through this and has paid those 5 premiums, right? Now it's year 6. I don't want to put expired because that'll be confusing. I was going to say the policy expired, but so did he. So what are we talking about here? Let's say lapsed.
Yeah, it's a bit nicer.
The policy is lapsed by now. He's paid his still 5 premiums, right? But now what's the expense to the insurance company? 0. And now what's their profit? $3,240. Right? If he does not die during the time the policy's in effect. Okay? So look at all this risk, right? They're risking nearly $150,000 every year. I mean, this is like nothing, peanuts, right? But if he lives through that whole term, the insurance company has raked in a cool $3,200. Yes.
So like, say you really want to meet this criteria, gives like.
The living, you mean?
Yeah, no, dying, so you get.
Dying?
Yes, you get the money, like, we're like, certain insurance.
There's not a single policy out there that is not null and void in the case of suicide.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
You got some like really messed
I
up.
did want to make that clear.
And they just like kill you.
Isn't
that fraud?
That would just be
Contradictions there are endless. What is your question exactly?
So like, say someone like your family, like
you know, you're working on a higher
rate money, you die.
Okay, that's murder, sure.
Yeah, but like, you also get money though.
You?
Well, no, not me, it's not dead. My family.
That's what they think. That's what they would think.
But they're wrong.
That's where they end up. Without the 150,000, by the way. And that's one that's, I mean, that's almost impossible to get away with, right? I mean, you've seen these crime shows, right? If they're taking like Mrs. Doherty's forensics class,
You're involved in that, aren't you? A murder?
allegedly.
That sounds like something that's just.
What if,
Do it, man.
That's kind of suspicious.
what if the day after you start that policy, you just slipped and fell?
So that's a good question. Like a day after, I would say a lot of times there's like a 6-month waiting period for the policy to take effect. So like if you knew like something like that was going to happen right there, and he had insurance, right, and he got killed for doing something like that, while he was in that 6-month grace period, or electrocuted, I could rewire that. So next time he touches it, okay, right? There's no pay, right? So usually there's a waiting period.
What if the guy just waits until the end of that 6-month period, falls off a roof doing something, dies? Because that's.
Then if you're covered, you're covered.
It's so suspicious though.
When you got to make it a year, like when you end the thing, right? So the 6-month, like.
Well, they do an investigation.
So let's say you
I
had
don't trust them.
let's say you had a plan to cash in on this, and that's why you bought it, and you got to wait 6 months. God, man, all right, I'll find something else to do. So it's a deterrent. Yeah.
So like, this profit was always $648 or whatever.
That was his premium.
It's not always consistent, like even during like.
That's your premium. Yeah.
Like, does this thing like, would it go up or down, like, depending on like, I don't know, pandemic or war or something?
No. And that's another risk insurance companies take, right? That'd be the non-systematic risk, almost like with business, right? Yeah, right. So it's a risk any company takes, right? Things happen in the world that cause your expenses and stuff to go up or down, but your revenues will stay the same, and that's a risk. A lot of risk in business here.
Do we have to do our review annual?
Yep.
What are we doing the rest of the week?
Watching me grade it. There ain't much the rest of the week.
So why don't we do the homework tonight, and then the next night, maybe this.
The test. We do the test tomorrow, and we have the rest of this. And you can go home.
We'll see. We'll see. Can I just get through?
Well, why don't we want to do two at
let's use our probability knowledge and our revenue and expense knowledge to calculate expected profit. Remember expected returns on a portfolio? It's kind of like your grades, like a weighted average of the components of your grade, right? And so aren't these probabilities kind of like the weightings for a weighted average kind of thing? Remember doing that? Nope. Matthew, talk about example 6. We did.
Just read one.
Oh, wait
Once
a
in a
minute.
row you did that.
All right, Jackson, example 6.
Example 5.
Well, wait a minute. What's the, you so offended? Like what?
It's weird. I can't read 2 times in a row.
I don't know. All right, Jackson, go.
In example 5, you witness that a company seems to take on a great risk when they sell a policy. Mortality rates and amount of profit are shown in the table. If the company sold 10,000 of the same policies, what would their expected profit be for the 10,000 policies?
Okay, expected profit. That's going to be the weighted average of probability times profits. Okay? Weighted average of probability. Wow. Probability times profit at each stage. Okay? Probability times profits, weighted average. Now, here's the, do we see the table here? Yeah. Good. All right. And how many of these policies did they sell? 10,000 of the same policy. Okay, that's the insured pool. Okay, and this is where I said they make up. You know, they're basically these small little profits they make up on volume, kind of like gasoline, right? That much profit for your gas stations down there. So, what's the probability of age being greater than or equal to 46? What would you say? You see that last thing there? If his age is greater than or equal to 46, listen carefully. That means he lived at all those other ages, right? At each of those other probabilities, he lived, right? And don't we need then the probability of living at all of those? If you, so what's the probability number in the last column?
0.98.
Well, so what I mean is that at age 45, living to you 46 years old, 0.0037, right? So can we just do 1 minus that to get the probability of getting to 46? No, because he's not 45. How old is he?
46.
Oh, he's 41. He's 41, right? That probability of living to age 46 is only based on him being 45 and making it to 46. That number is. Right? So you can't just do 1 minus that number because he's 41. So what do you think we have to do? Right. Right? So it's going to be 1. This probability of getting at or farther than age 46, right? So it's living, so it's 1 minus. All those numbers are probability of dying, right? Somebody answer that phone. What is that? 1 minus. Since he's 41, what's the probability of him dying before he's 42?
0.0026.
So 1 minus 0.0026, probability of living. But we got to keep going. Subtract the next probability. Minus 0.0029. Next one minus 0.0031. And minus 0.0034. What does that sound? Minus 0.0037. You see what we're doing here? This is the probability of him being, it's really important. He's 41. You can't use that probability underneath 45, getting to 46. Okay? Because he's 41. So at 41, the probability of living is 1 minus all the probabilities you make it through. Okay? It's the probability of living all the way through. Okay? I believe that comes to 0.9843. It's like one of those old sci-fi movies. Okay, you're normal. Okay? So his probability of living is pretty high, wouldn't you say? He's got less than a 2% chance of dying. I can live with that. Oh, God, I know that was bad. At least I know that was bad. All right, now we got to talk about the profits, right? Let's get this weighted average. So the profits from example 5, okay? So this is going to be from example, to be clear, 5. We have the profits or losses experienced from him living at all those different ages, don't we? That's the profit, but now we need the probability of that profit. Probability of the first profit plus the probability of the second one, right, at the next year. That makes sense? To get the actual total profit. All right. So what are we going to do here? So what's our first probability? Okay. So let's see, how am I going to write this? I'll do this profit. You know what? I got 2 P's in here, don't I? I'll use a lowercase p for probability. I just realized that might be confusing. I'm going to use a lowercase p for probability and the uppercase for profit. And you know what the bar means at the top? Average. Average profit. Because we're going to weighted average, okay? Now I can think. So, what's the probability of the insurance company reaping that first profit or loss? 0.0026 multiplied by what that profit or loss would be if he dies, and it was negative 149,352. Okay, plus the next probability, 0.0029 multiplied by that loss. I'm not going to say profit anymore. Negative 148,704. You kind of following here? Plus the next probability, 0.0031 times that loss, 148.05 is negative. Plus now we're on to 0.0034 times negative 147,408. We have to go to a second line here. Plus now 0.037. And that loss was 146.7. Oh, I did. Yeah, I did that again. 760. Now, guys, hey, now we have this final probability of him living, right? Right? And the probability of him living multiplied by their profit gained by him living at the very end after the policy has run its course, right? It's gone to term, would be that 0.9843. And what was their profit in there? $3,240. Right? So, okay, do you guys understand the setup here? So, if he dies in that first year of the policy, that's what the profit of the insurance company is, weighted. If he dies here, that's the weighted loss. If he dies here, that's the weighted loss. So we got to add up all these weighted profit slash losses, okay? But then this is important to include, right? Because this is the probability that he's going to live, and that's the actual positive profit, right? They actually make money, 98% chance of that, okay? And that comes to a weighted average profit of 866.40. Okay? Weighted average profit. So that's what they can go, right? So that's not a number that's actually going to happen, right? But when you think about it in the aggregate over the entire pool of thousands of people, right? This is what you can expect the profit to be from any given one of them. That's all expected profit, right? It's like expected rate of return. After you calculate the averages, right? You're not necessarily going to get that rate of return, but that's, you can use that to calculate and predict, right? And model things. It's in the aggregate. It's as a whole, pool. Okay? But now, how many people are in this policy? 10,000 policies. What's their total profit? If this is the expected profit from any given one, just multiply it. Look what that gives you. What does it give you? God, I kind of wanted you to, just for the impact of it.
So many zeros.
Oh my God. So from that pool of insurance, look at their expected profit. Does that make sense? That's kind of cool, right? We can use this weighted average, though no one policy is going to result in 866. It's like when you have a bunch of numbers and you take the average, that number probably doesn't exist in the set of numbers, right, itself. So a lot of times you'll, I take the median because that one's more likely to be there, right? So this is like the average. The number probably not anywhere in there, but that's what they'll average out to. And so that's how you calculate their expected profit from a pool of policies to the same people. Now it's at 8,600,000. Okay? And so this is the business model of insurance companies. It's kind of neat, right? It's a different business model we're used to, isn't it? Yeah. It's not just a straight, here's inventory on a shelf. We know the cost to manufacture a widget is this, right? So it's a little bit different. Kind of cool. So, for some of you going into finance, maybe this kind of thing tickles your brain going. I don't know, Casper. Maybe.
It's tickling.
Is it? Is there a check I want to do with it? No, I think that's enough.
Riveting stuff.
Okay.